Hello, Professor Boyd. This is the labor management activity brought to you by the owners. So, to start things off, we want to talk about the things we want to extend or continue in regards to the CBA. The salary cap. The salary cap is put into place to maintain the competitive balance of the league. It keeps big market teams from spending oodles of money on players that small market teams can't afford. We want competitive basketball because that's more interesting for our fans. Fans want to not know who the winner is when watching our game. Now, teams can go over the salary cap, but they have to abide by the luxury tax, which is a punishment. For an example, next season the LA Clippers are around $23 million over the cap, which means they pay a $56 million penalty that gets distributed out amongst the league. Free agency is also something we'd like to maintain, specifically restricted free agency, where a team can match other teams' offers to keep their players. The Phoenix Suns are currently in contract talks with DeAndre Ayton, who is a restricted free agent. Hypothetically, if Ayton were to get a massive contract from the Dallas Mavericks, which is something he's looking for, a massive contract, the Suns could match it if they wanted to. If they didn't, Ayton signs with the Mavs. It's fair to the player, it's fair to the organization, and it's fair to the new organization. It's fair everywhere. And finally, we understand that the NBA is a star-driven league, so we want to maintain an even 49 to 51% share of the league's income with the players, since we see that as a fair margin.
Now that we've discussed what we would like to continue for next year, we would like to talk about the three changes we'd like to see to the CBA. According to the miscellaneous tab, Section G states that the salary deduction for suspension or unexcused absences of 20 games or more is currently 1/110th of the salary. Now we think with the recent Kyrie Irving attention, that should be reduced to 1/50th of the salary, because if players can just sit out and receive their money, then there's no incentive for us to pay them. Especially this is the start of hopefully not many to come, but there's a leeway in the fine print that could be manipulated, and that is why we're trying to get ahead of this. And us, the owners, think that it should be a more hefty reduction in the salary. Now, our second point that we'd like to change is a bonus award for perfect attendance. This kind of goes off of to what we talked about last change, but this is an addition, so not a change. This is an addition, and we believe this addition would go under Section J4 of the miscellaneous tab, and we would like to bring in a tier system to reward games played. And a situation that we're talking about is the Ben Simmons and Kawhi Leonard situation. Kawhi Leonard does this load management thing, which awesome. He doesn't get hurt. That's cool. But for season ticket holders and players that are showing up to games that he isn't playing in will be disappointed. So it might decrease sales. So this is an incentive to get people to play the more games, because it seems like there's a higher incentive to sit out. And the third and final change we would like to see is clearing the waiver period. Now, we, the owners, think that this waiver period should be reduced to 0. There's no time limit to wait for the waiver period to be done. And this would increase more action. Now that social media is so involved into sports, it would make people more involved into the live sporting event that isn't the games or the draft or the live press conference after. It's something random could drop during business hours, and we could see a change. So that is something that we're proposing to change. And we think that this would make the game a lot more interesting, and it could definitely benefit the owners as well as the players, but it makes the game more involved in social media and the fans.
I'm going to talk about the COVID-19 role and how COVID-19 affected the NBA and players and owners, and how COVID definitely played a part in the 2020-2021 season and still even now, and how it will affect future CBA agreements when thinking of making them. So the COVID-19 role, how COVID-19 affected the CBA now and from the past 2 years. Right now, there is a statement written that if an unforeseen event happens, it allows the league to withhold one over 92.6 salary from its players and owners actually as well. They never use this, but they tried finding other ways to cut, because this would make it seem that like players and owners would lose billions and billions and billions of dollars. The league was making the owners pay for the other hourly workers and take a pay cut, while the players didn't have to do anything from this. So to be able to avoid um, the withhold, they were just taking from many parts, and trying to like pay cut everything. And also with a shortened season than in the 2021 season and doing the bubble, there was no fans, and so it was less pay for everyone because they weren't getting all the branding and the tickets and like the food and the beer that was sold at all the games, because that always goes into how much then everyone gets paid. And so this also equaled less pay for everyone. The next thing for the future for CBA events, um, what it was called for the withholding is the fourth major clause, and that may need a change and new clause written in for unseen events. Unseen events is also war, not just pandemic, but of course, pandemic um, threw everyone into a shock, and they did not want to go into this, so they were finding other ways to pay cut while still keeping their players and owners happy. But with cutting everything, they were still not making everyone happy. So they may need to change that in the new CBA agreement, and they were not making the players take a pay cut to help pay for the hourly workers. So what I propose as the owner side is make the whole team pay for it. Both owners and players go in together because they're both on the same side of um, like dealing with all this as everyone in the world was. So I think one side, it was unfair for the owners just to get blamed on it because that is a huge pay cut of what they were used to. And the free agency and salary cap, because COVID-19, definitely with the salary cap made it way less. And so that also played a role into the free agency, which a lot of the 2021 free agents was like Antetokounmpo, LeBron James, and so. But if the salary cap is lower, they're not going to become um, they're free agents. So what I propose is they need to soothe the cap, especially the free agency class could get screwed over, and this happens ever again. And also with the scheduling, they need to be flexible, and definitely with what was going on and what could happen in the future of what goes on, just be flexible and try to play as many games because that does generate money no matter what. Um, and all the players and owners, they want to play because they know that also makes the money if they don't play. So those are just some proposals that I think as the owner side, and it also helps the player side as well, so that everyone doesn't get screwed over because we during a pandemic, a war, or whatever else happens, like we're all on the same side and all wanting to keep playing, doing the job, and making money as well.
For the conclusion for the owners, to sum up everything that we've discussed so far, first off, for extend and continue on the CBA, we want to make the league as competitive as it is, but we also want to improve on that. We want free agency to work as it is and also improve in certain areas there. And we want the share of income to be between 49 and 51%. As for changes, the first change that we want to make to the next CBA is pretty much a punishment for missing unexcused games. And that's going to be the main point for the first change. For the second change, it's actually incentivize to attend games through bonus awards of perfect attendance and a tier system. And our third change, our last change, we want to make the clearing wave period 48 hours, as this increases more action and engages more social media. As for COVID and really any unforeseen event, the main thing that we want to focus on is flexibility. And we think that there needs to be a change for how they handle unforeseen events regarding the salary, but flexibility is going to be key to handling those unforeseen events and still having a successful season. That is the conclusion for the owner's presentation.